Bryce Huff has been the name on everyone's lips so far through minicamp, but exactly what does he add to this defense? We're going to take a deep dive in the film room and answer that question next. What is good, everybody? Welcome to another Gold Standard podcast. I'm Rob Stats Guerrera alongside Johnny Dell, here with you on a Thursday to get into the film room. You know, I love breaking it down. Johnny, so glad you're with us this week.
Man, I'm glad to be back. I'm no longer driving. I knocked my little pop filter off. Driving across the entire United States. It's my second time doing so. That's a trip. If you ever have the chance to do it, I won't say don't do it. You see a lot, but man, don't do it in 5 days.
Yeah, that is quite the journey, but we are glad that you are here with us because we want you to help us be better, smarter fans. That is the point of this show, and we're going to continue that this week because Bryce Huff was in minicamp. He was out there. Everybody was, excited about that. Kyle Shanahan got asked about it. Trent Williams got asked about it. And Robert Saleh got asked, what does Bryce Huff bring to this defense?
Of him as a pass rusher. Thought he was very productive, obviously, with the Jets. He wins at such a high rate. When a lot of times we look at pass rushers, we look at sacks, and sacks are important. They end drives, and it's what ultimately gets these guys paid. But his disruption rate in getting the quarterback off the spot and the way he can do it now. He is a second effort pass rusher, but he wins so quickly, so often that coordinators have to account for his presence on the field.
One of the things we want to do on this show is test stuff like that. Is it true? Does it hold up? You dove into the lab, into the vault, Johnny. What would you say?
Well, I think he's really it's a very fair assessment, and he's not wrong. And it's very much what you do see from film. Even going back to the Eagles, he's a lot of times seen as kind of a one pitch closer, kind of the guy to come in who can throw the 100-mile-an-hour fastball. He does have a couple, moves off the side of that, but it's also a situation where his one move is so good that it does allow for everything else to kind of play off of that. And I think the biggest thing you can say about him, again, just looking at the tape, is he creates space and creates space in a positive way. A lot of times offenses are trying to create space for their playmakers, right? And they're trying to find where is the defense allowing space, and we're going to move into it. As pass rushers, they're doing the same thing. It's the idea that how do you allow your pass rushers to not play in a phone booth? And how do you create space for your defensive tackles, for a Nick Bosa? How do you do all that? And Bryce Huff is one of those guys that you can put him so wide and he's so quick off the snap that he just creates this big, massive space on his side. And I think the one thing that he's really saying about is getting the quarterback off his spot. When I looked at especially his Eagles tape this last year, you don't see a ton of sacks on there, but you see quarterbacks constantly having to step up, step over, move. They aren't allowed to just go through their drop back, and we'll see some clips of this. Just go through their drop back, hit their back foot, and throw. They're always aware of where he is because he can hit the landmark, which is on that kind of 7-step, 5-step and a hitch from shotgun sort of landmark so quickly that quarterbacks can't just plant there. He's going to change the launch point for the quarterback, which changes the timing of the routes and everything. So very much what he said there. And you see that rate at which he gets to that landmark is a very high rate.
Well, let's dive in. I'm excited. I want to see it. Make me happy here as we approach the 40 days of death, as I call it, where there's no mini camp, there's no practice. I want to dive into this and see what this new toy is. It's like unwrapping a gift on Christmas morning.
Yeah. So, I think something that maybe fans and we've seen since this trade is, okay, this Bryce Huff that was with the Eagles last year was not the Bryce Huff from the Jets. And I will say yes and no. There's one, you can see that he's got a club on his right hand. Or his left hand. It's a little hard to see there, but I can see it really well on my screen. It became very apparent. This was the last game he played before they shut him down he went in and had surgery, and that pretty much ended his season last year. And you could see he was not wanting to use his hands. And as you're going to see with some of this, when it comes to the speed rushers, the ability to do that cross chop, to use their hands to get after tackles who are getting on. I saw it a lot. He was very hesitant to use his hand against this right tackle most of this game. And so there was a lot of them. The guy could kind of get on him before him, but he still was productive, but they'd really dialed back his reps. And then while he was out, number 3 for the Eagles, Nick Jordan, I believe is who it was. I looked it up. He's a rookie. He really played very well in the reps he got there. So I don't think this was a situation where necessarily Bryce Huff just became a non-factor. I think his injury slowed him down, and then the other guys ascending made him expendable. And that's why he was there for the 49ers. But you're going to see him here take this speed rush, and it's all about this first step. One, notice how wide he is. He is way out here from the tackle. Okay, so this tackle to get there is going to have to kick step like crazy to get back. So we're going to see the speed off the edge, and then what that allows to do here, you get a game-changing sack.
So, and just for people that aren't watching, the tackle is basically in the middle of the hashes at the start of the play, and Bryce Huff is on the outside hash. So that's how far apart they are. And he just quickly gets into the backfield, does a little spin move, and gets to the quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, you can see that the tackle is having to kick step so violently out that when guys do that, you hit him with this, you hit him with this, you hit him with this like 5 times. They're kick stepping so wide. That's when then these speed guys can then work inside, get in there. But you can see he's trying to not use that hand. That hand, he's protecting it, but you get that tackle kick stepping so far out. Now you've opened up the inside and you got a sack. And this was, again, and it's not just a sack, it's a strip sack. So it's a huge game-changing play. This was a point in the game where it was still pretty close between the Giants and the Eagles. And you're going to see it. Same thing here. Watch the attack angle and the way he's able to slip inside, because this tackle has to kick step so wide to account for his speed off the edge. You can just see it. I mean, that is a fast pass rusher.
The thing I like about that too is it's just you're dictating to the offense, right? You as the pass rusher are dictating to the offense the terms of your engagement. And I like that because I felt like the 49ers defense was always on their heels last year.
Absolutely. And they have not had a true speed element since D Ford. Samson Ebukam was close, and Nick Bosa still had his best year with Samson Ebukam playing on the other side. And so the ability to get vertical, get to this landmark so that Nick Bosa doesn't have to be the speed guy, that he can work in these layers and underneath layers at the 4.5 to 6 yard deep landmarks is what you want. But you have to have a speed guy to go get that 7+. That's what the idea is here. And so you're going to see it again. He's going to push this tackle so high. And then here comes the spin move to counter off it. That is right in there. And now he's flushed the quarterback. And that's our old pal Trey Lance there near the end of the game. But we'll see it one more time of the speed to drive the tackle vertical. And then there it is. And you just see the space that creates when that tackle has to kick step so far out. And then this is going, now we're kind of working reverse time. That was the last game he really played with the Eagles. And now we're working the week before. This is when he really started to hurt his wrist against the Giants. And I brought this one in because the Giants at this point, he had played a lot of snaps against Cleveland before, and he'd been playing a lot during the year. So this is very much the Giants' game plan against him. When he was lined up, it was like 95% of the time he was coming off the defense's left side, the offense's right side. And what I wanted to point out here is that you have a tight end and a running back, and they're both going to chip on him to help this tackle. And the reason this is really important at this juncture is the offense is on the near hash. And there's that is not normal for what you see. If you are going to have chip and help, which is putting 2 extra eligibles to the short side of the field, that means you are very concerned about this guy, because now they just have a 2 receiver concept to the wide side of the field. And that allows a defense to be able to cover fewer eligibles in the widest, most space of the field. So, because they have a wide receiver out, so their 3 receiver side is to the short side of the field. That tells you exactly what the Giants think of Bryce Huff as a pass rusher and the threat it has. It's not just something where it just turned out to be this way. This was very much game plan. And so you're going to see he's going to get chipped first by the tight end, and then here's the running back to help, all to help this right tackle. These are eligibles, and so on the other side, again, they're just running a little 2-man concept, and you're able to clamp down on everything away from it because they don't have a third receiver in there to really stretch that wide area of the field. And so the Giants here, they get like 2 yards on a pass play. It's one of those that the game plan, this isn't even as much what he did on the play. The game planning it in itself, you see the influence it has that they're going to keep 2 guys over to protect against that speed off the edge. Just start imagining what that means for Nick Bosa, what that means for the secondary, what that means for Michael Williams.
And I feel like that's something that Saleh and some of the 49ers people have talked about too. It's not just the sacks. The sacks obviously are great, and everybody loves sacks. But if that was just it, a great year would be 10 sacks. Well, that's 10 plays. Bryce Huff and a great speed rusher can impact the offense on more than just the sack plays. And this is exactly what we're talking about. And it's to the defense's advantage. And it's something that, doesn't necessarily show up on a highlight tape, but it does matter.
Yeah, and it absolutely shows up when you look at how is this offense trying to account for him. Because I remember back when we traded for Chase Young, when that happened, the 49ers suddenly got somebody that defenses actually were putting running backs over. Like they would, it was so frustrating to watch the entire year that nobody else was getting a double team off the edge or a chip or anything other than Nick Bosa. And Nick Bosa just getting beat up by 2 and 3 guys every single play. And suddenly Chase Young came along and Nick Bosa suddenly looked way more productive. We weren't seeing a ton of production from Chase Young, but it was like, oh, Nick Bosa suddenly come around. It was more, he wasn't the only one getting chips and doubles all the time. Somebody else was at least getting a chip from a running back. Like that makes a huge difference. And so seeing that and you go, okay, there's a guy that, because Trent Williams said that about Bryce Huff, right? He said, they asked him, what does he bring? And he said, oh, I mean, he's that guy who's got all that speed that you have to keep a tight end or running back over there to help chip, because he's got such speed. He said that. And that's exactly what you see here. The tape absolutely tells that's what he does. And then, as Saleh said, he's not always a second effort rusher, but that doesn't mean he doesn't have the second effort. You're going to see him again come here off the edge, just that blazing first step, and then he's just going to keep working. And he gets in on the sack. This was a half sack he got. But what I really wanted to point out on this is just what I was talking about of what this allows Nick Bosa to do as far as working levels. So for those who are on the audio side, when we talk about levels, we're looking at that they want to have each level of where the quarterback's going to be in different depths. So you want something at 7 yards, 5 yards, 3 yards, 1 yard. You want those all staggered so that the quarterback doesn't have a clear lane to step up into, and your pass rushers aren't going to be coming into the same depth. So you have to rush at different depths. When you have a guy who can win to that 7 yard mark, and then you have a Nick Bosa who can win to that 5 yard mark, and you have a Michael Williams to win to that 3 yard mark, you are suddenly now creating an incredibly disruptive pocket, and you're seeing just that. Okay. Daniel Jones wants to get rid of the ball. You have somebody at 5, you have somebody at 7, and you're getting somebody at 3. That's what the Eagles are doing. So that is team pass rush, and there's nowhere for the quarterback to go. It becomes suffocating for quarterbacks.
It's literally just like squeezing down. It's like a net around the quarterback that clamps down and leaves nowhere for them to go. And that's when this pass rush was at its best, when it was the team pass rush, when you had the guys up front that could rush as a unit, as opposed to it all being dependent on 97.
Exactly. And, I what I really love about this really puts the Mykel Williams pick, I think, even better, is because the one knock on Mykel Williams is that he wasn't a huge speed off the edge guy. But this reminds you so much of the 2019 defensive line, where you have that specialist speed rusher for a third down in Bryce Huff. You're not going to ask him to play base downs for first and second down and defend the run. You had Eric Armstead, who did that in 2019, who was the base defensive end, and then pass rushing situations, he'd kick inside. And Mykel Williams is looking to play the exact same role, is to be the edge setter in against the rundowns and bring some heat off the edge a little bit there. But then when it comes to third down, the money down, you kick him inside and you're able to put him over a guard. And the physicals he has there, phenomenal. You got Nick Bosa on the other side. You got Bryce Huff with the speed, and then you put an Alfred Collins in there, and you're going to have somebody or CJ West rotate both those guys, and you got somebody who can disrupt this. I mean, that starts looking like the 2019 defensive line, which was so fun to watch. So fun to watch. That wasn't the same when D Ford went down. Like when D Ford went down at the end of the year, their pass rush win rate went way off the charts just because they didn't have the speed off the edge. And so, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry to jump in. And also, D Ford didn't play a ton of snaps. I think he only played like 20% of the snaps for the 49ers, but it shows you the type of impact that he can have. And one of the things I'm excited about in this video is that this is Eagles stuff. This is Eagles Bryce Huff. This is not Robert Saleh, like, oh, what we hope that he can get back to. This is literally what we saw on the field last year.
Yeah. I mean, and because the big question I had was, okay, was he a different guy last year? The only issue. And you look at it and I went, okay, it really was, they asked him to drop in coverage more than he ever did with the Jets. That was what Fangio did. Not great in coverage. Okay, well, we're not going to ask him to do that. The other guys were really showing out. And plus they had Brandon Graham, who came back and he was playing edge because their interior guys were playing so well. And he was really productive. And they had the rookie, who I don't think they were expecting to be nearly as good as he was. And he was playing phenomenally well there on the edge. And then they went and drafted Jahad Campbell, and it just became he was the odd man out with a big contract. And yes, they didn't get a lot of cap relief this year, but they get cap relief in 2026 and 2027. They get a lot of cap relief for him in 2027. So teams look at 3 years. This a guy he just became an extra, and if that was going to cost them I think it was 32 million, something like that is what he had left on his contract, 24, somewhere around there. With the Jet or with the Eagles, they're saving a lot of money. So this was really a cap casualty for somebody who became redundant, but it wasn't like you just saw suddenly an ineffective player. And we're going to see the speed off the edge again. You just see that he can win to the top. I mean, this is, again, that first step quickness, able to get around the tackle and win to the top. Make those quarterbacks. I mean, you can see the tackle leaves early. I mean, this is the old Lane Johnson, right?
There it is.
He's leaving early, and he's so far back on his heels. He's trying to get in there, and he still can't beat Bryce Huff around the edge, who, again, you're getting to this level that you want. You're wanting these guys to get in here a little bit more. That's not everybody else. His job is to win at that 7-yard landmark, and he has, and he makes Daniel Jones move off a spot, and now it's a broken play, okay, which, things can happen from there, but he did what he was supposed to do, one with speed to the top. It's just over and over again what it is, and then you're going to see him again, that they bring a running back over here. They want a chip to help this tackle, something we have not seen people do to people, and he still is fighting through and gets the sack. So, it's still there. He's still got the measurables. And then this one I really wanted to show, because when they don't chip, you're going to see the kind of space it creates for everybody else. So as he's coming out, this tackle has to kick so wide. Look at the amount of space that this 3-tech has to work on the guard. Just imagine that being Mykel Williams.
So, yeah, it puts the other guy on an island, basically. which is
Yeah.
awesome.
And then you have Nick Bosa on the other side, and you have a CJ West over here. Okay, this creates so much space for your other pass rushers, and that's exactly what happens here as they're able to just blow up the interior, and Daniel Jones has to get rid of it, and your coverage guys can sit on stuff. I mean, this just creates so much space for your other pass rushers as that tackle is so wide. Now you have huge space. When you have a quick guy like Micah Williams, that I sit there and just kind of like drool about it, of the thought of Micah Williams one-on-one against a guard in that kind of space. Oh my gosh. Like, or you put Nick Bosa there. You put them both on the same side and have that. Man, that gets exciting. And I go, okay, I really like this. But the number one thing, speed off the edge. Just watch him off the edge. We'll run it in at full speed so you can see it. Just that burst to get up the field. I mean, it's just there. He doesn't get this sack, but he causes it. Why? Because quarterback's got to step up into the rusher. It's there. Doesn't get the sack, but he creates a play. And here it was. This is then the week before, even against the Browns. This was, I think, his best game of the year. Played against the Browns, and speed off the edge. Speed. You know, this is affecting making a bad throw here. You're going to see, watch the tackle, watch the strain he has to get out here. He's already on his heels.
Yeah,
that is not a good set by a tackle, because he's coming off the edge, you know. And again, the quarterback, he's going to short arm this. He's not, you know, what's his butt? Deshaun Watson here. His throwing motion is usually a little bit more out, his arm slot, and his arm slot's going to be very, very vertical because he's trying to keep that in tight, and it's not a great throw, and it forces an incomplete pass. So when we talk about that win rate off the edge and disrupting the quarterback, this is what Robert Saleh is talking about. This is not always there. Again, same thing. The tackle is so far on his heels.
He's so concerned about just getting back to his spot where he needs to get to, that he's got no balance. He's got no leverage. It's just, oh my God, I have to get here because otherwise he's going to go right by untouched. But it's like, yeah, you're there, but you're kind of useless.
Exactly. And it just creates so much space. And again, there it is. It's another one that he's not getting the sack, but he forces the quarterback to have to step up because he wins to the spot so quickly. Now Watson's stepping up, and now you get these interior guys. You know, it's almost like the lion forcing all the prey to the lionesses, right? That it just works them that way. Here we go again, off the edge. This is half speed, and you can see now the guy's so trying to get out there to get to him. He oversets. So he can't beat him backwards. So he's now going to try and go get him. And that leaves the counter move for the slip inside. There it is. And Ole, and he is one to the quarterback, right? So it's only because he gets rid of the ball really quickly that this gets out of there. But that's a play that, you know, when you look at a defensive end, he won that rep immediately. And so it affects everything.
This is such a positive encouragement. Like I always get excited when what the coaches say you can actually see on the film. Because, like, look, Robert Saleh is not going to stand up at the podium and say, Bryce Huff's not that good, or he's not going to have that much of an impact, right? But I like when we could take what they say and put it to the test and look at the actual footage. And again, that was all Eagles film from last year. It's not like we're having to go back into the vault. So what they like about Bryce Huff, the things that we're hoping to see are things that he flashed at times last year. And then when you combine that with Robert Saleh and putting Bryce Huff in the position where we already have seen him succeed at the NFL level, it really, really gives me hope that this isn't just talk, that this isn't just like, we hope we can do this. Like, they should be able to translate this onto the field.
Exactly. And, you know, his snaps did go down last year, and that was a lot of it. His pressure rate was still pretty good for, I think it was like 23%, something like that, which was near the top of the league as far as pressure rate wins. You know, so This wasn't like he had just fallen off a cliff. Again, the Eagles were starting to do more multiple front things, and they're asking their edge guys to drop into coverage, to peel off and cover running backs. And, that's what they started playing one of their off-ball linebackers on the edge a lot. It was 58, I think, Bomb. Anyways, that I kept seeing him on the edge. They were moving guys around so much that kind of that one guy over there, wide 9, we're going to rush and use that speed rush, wasn't as much where they were going to. And that's not on Bryce Huff. That's on where the Eagles as a team with Vic Fangio kind of evolved into over the year. And they had a rookie that really started to show out, and he just became an unnecessary piece. You always like to have as many passers as possible, but you don't want to pay $17 million a year for a guy who's now redundant. And when you're going to have a Jihad Campbell, who you're going to sometimes bring off the edge, you're sometimes going to play off ball, and you're going to create these mismatches. It's not on Bryce Huff. But when you see he's got the tools for what Robert Saleh wants to do, and use that and pair that with the vision that they have for this defensive line, I go, okay, I really like this. I really like this. I really like the pieces of the puzzle that are coming together. This makes me feel probably twice as good about our defense as I did before this. Because the one question I had was, where is the serious pass rush juice off the edge going to come from? And this answers that question.
Let me bring up one concern that I do have, because you showed a lot of clips of Bryce Huff winning around the edge, but quarterbacks, the Trey Lance one was one example. The mobile quarterbacks are able to escape. And now, because Bryce Huff is around the edge, there's nobody on that side of the field. Could his speed be almost so good that he creates running lanes for mobile quarterbacks?
It's possible. And that's where Chris Kasurik and Robert Saleh really have to work. And these guys have to work together through these mini camps, OTAs, and training camp on team pass rush and working on that. And then this, on the other side, this is where a guy like Nick Martin really comes into play, where what we saw his specialty being in college was spying the quarterback, running down these mobile quarterbacks, and using that insane closing speed, which we had looked at on some clips a while back, to go and get those guys. So that's where I see that as okay. I'm okay with that as long as we have a cohesive plan around it and that everybody's bought in. If it's just him, fly up field, well, that's going to be an issue. How do we, use this and really put this together into a cohesive game plan and plan? That's where Robert Saleh comes in. And then I think, one, that's exciting to see what he does, because I think he's rejuvenated to do things like that now.
And by the way, if you missed any of our previous film breakdowns, I just created a new playlist on the YouTube page just for our film breakdown. So you can go and check it out and click and see everything that we've done. We've done some of the rookies. We did some of Brock Purdy's interceptions from last year. So go and check that out. Not now. This is our time. But in the future, it's all there. And on all the episodes that we do going forward, will also be there. So please go and check that out. But yeah, this Huff thing, it makes me feel like the defense is more complete. I'd still like to see them add a veteran corner and possibly a veteran safety before the start of the year. But it does feel less like hope. Like we have a strategy instead of just hope, just hoping the rookies are good, just hoping Michael Williams can learn how to pass rush at the NFL level. This is not that. And so that was why it was such an encouraging move.
100%. When it was looking at it, I could go, okay, I could see the vision here a little bit. But you are looking at 3 rookies on the defensive line that you would be asking a lot of for 80% of your downs. And this is just like, okay, this now makes so much more sense. We have a first round and a second round pick that obviously you believe in enough that those are going to be your prime starters in Alfred Collins and Michael Williams. And now you get to rotate in CJ West, and you're not asking Williams to become a premier edge rusher in his rookie year. You're asking him to use the skills and abilities that he has most, which is that insane power, that twitchy, quick inside rush that he is just more comfortable with. At Georgia, he rushed much more from pretty much outside shoulder of the tackle in. So when it's looking at his ability to rush, he's not going to be trying to learn all these new pass rush moves from a wide 9. You get Bryce Huff there. He's able to eat inside, push the pocket, use that power. Nick Bosa. I now see the vision, and it makes everything makes so much more sense. And I go, okay, I'm not. I'll wait to see the product on the field before I start proclaiming that this is what it is. But
Right.
You see, it has the pieces. The recipe is there. They just got to cook in the kitchen.
It's one thing if players don't execute on the field. It's another thing if you can't even really understand, like, what is the path that we're making to victory. You can see the path. We'll see if the Niners defense can walk it. You mentioned the young guys. Alfred Collins hasn't played a snap so far in OTAs, in minicamp. I have gone back. I have tried to find the actual injury. What is wrong with Alfred Collins' calf? And I can't find it. All it was, oh, he's in a walking boot at the pro day, but I don't know, like, what is the actual injury? And, oh, by the way, he hasn't signed his rookie contract either. None of the second-round picks have signed across the NFL. I kind of want to see this guy out on the practice field because they were talking about how they're going to change his stance and ask him to do a couple of different things he didn't do in college. He's going to need time and reps to work on that, and he hasn't gotten those so far.
No, 100%. That's the one that I think is most concerning for me, is where he's at. I have some, I guess, consolation in that CJ West is there, and
Yes.
he's been getting reps. Of course, he missed a day, I believe, there in OTAs. But the CJ West is there, and so they double dipped at defensive tackle. You do have Jordan Elliott still on the team, and he does bring something as far as run stuffing. But I want to see Alfred Collins, and they apparently knew that this was all there, and a lot of teams did. But the 49ers, it becomes these mystery injuries, right? That you find out about 3 months later, like Malik Mustafa suddenly not being able to be in the offseason program at all. And then all of a sudden, okay, now he's probably not going to be ready for the start of training camp. And you go, oh, well, we didn't even know that was an injury thing. But CJ West is exciting. I think that it is good for him. I'm not loving the idea that Alfred Collins isn't getting the reps there. But I do like a lot of what I've been seeing from the clips, of understanding what the 49ers are asking these guys to do. And they're going to be playing disruptive. I mean, this is not about a passive defensive line. They're looking to get into the backfield, set a new line of scrimmage, disrupt these movement runs, and really take it to offenses.
If you're watching on the stream right now, you can see this loop that I have of Nick Bosa and CJ West in minicamp. CJ West looks terrifying. He's huge. When I saw him, I was like, oh my God. Like, we always used to talk about how big Javon Kinlaw is. CJ West is massive.
Yeah, he is a big man, and we watched his tape. I fell in love with his tape. I mean, my goodness, it was so good. The control he plays with, the quickness he has for his size. I mean, I know we don't want to pigeonhole guys too much, and Robert Saleh was very careful about that, about the looking at that these are roles that they're trying to replace from 2019, but it just reminds you of DJ Jones. I mean, but a bigger version of DJ Jones, and that is a guy that they never were able to replace. And so seeing that, I go, okay, I really do see the vision here. Man, I just want to see Alfred Collins in training camp already.
Yeah, I just want to unwrap the presents, like I said earlier. Hopefully, we've got 40 days. That's your assignment, John Lynch. It's get Alfred Collins signed, and it's add a couple veterans on the defensive side, and we can open training camp in 40 days and be like, damn, all right, this is, instead of just trying to look at all the guys that they lost, look at the guys that they brought in, realize that they are building something new, and we can get hyped a little bit because, that Seahawks game looms week 1, and we got to be ready, and hopefully we will be ready as the Niners rebuild the defense. We are ready to call it a show for today. Thank you, everybody. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel. We do promise you, if you give us a chance, you'll come back for more. Subscribe to the Johnny Dale Football Academy, also on YouTube, for plenty more film breakdowns like this one. Glad you're done with your cross-country trips, Johnny. And if you have a suggestion for something that you want us to break down, leave a comment on this video. we're open to suggestions. We got 40 days here, so we got plenty of time to fill. We're going to have some time to look at some things. So leave your suggestions, and I promise you we'll take as many of them as we can as we get into the nitty-gritty here of the Film Vault. I love it.
Oh yeah. And I love the suggestions too, because like I said, it's hard to find where's exactly the meat on the bone with a whole lot of stuff. And this is fun because I get to see new film. Like it's hard to watch over, everything from last year or try and look at stuff and be treading over everything else. We get to see new film. And so it makes me excited for this season.
So leave your suggestions. We appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday, everybody. And we'll talk to you next week.